Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nichelle M. Hayes. I am the founding leader for the Center for Black Literature and Culture, part of the Indianapolis Public Library here at Central Library, 40 East St. Clair. We are celebrating Indianapolis, Black culture, the community, and our 4th anniversary. I would first like to take a moment and give honor to the ancestors, those who have come before us and who have paved the way and on whose shoulders we stand. We would be nowhere and nothing without them. I would like to get permission from the elders in the room for us to begin. Thank you so much. We are going to have remarks from Judith Thomas, who's the deputy mayor of Indianapolis, as well as remarks from the Black Caucus of the American Library Association, Shantae Burns Simpson. Okay. So because of some, as I said before, some technological excitement, we are unfortunately not going to be able to hear them. But what I would say is that Judith Thomas has been a fierce supporter of the CBLC since our inception. When we opened, she was working for the Visit Indy program, and she supported us, she shared the information, she attended our programs, and now we are so proud that she is deputy mayor of Indianapolis, and she's continuing to do that great work. So we thank her so much for taking time out of her schedule. She had another event today, and she was working with one of our sister cities. And so we just thank her so much for everything she's been doing.
If people at home can hear her, she unmutes herself. So if you have her unmute herself.
Okay. So Judith, can you go ahead and unmute? And the people at home can hear you. You can begin.
Yes, can anyone hear me now?
Give her a thumbs up, Michelle.
Hello, everyone. And on behalf of the City of Indianapolis and Mayor Joe Hogshead, I am honored to be here with you all. Congratulations to the Indianapolis Public Library and the Center for Black Literature and Culture on your 4th anniversary. What a great day. And congratulations to Nichelle Hayes. God bless you for all of your hard work and your commitment to create a unique place that reflects the richness of our culture. For more than 4 years, you have developed strong programming focused on literature, art, music, and creativity in every aspect of life. The Center for Black Literature and Culture is a space that is needed. Actually, it's craved. A place to gain a sense of pride and history, or simply a safe place to sit and just be. To sink in at the images of homegrown dignitaries like Maury Evans and poet Etheridge Knight, as well as local historic photos. The CBLC serves as a gathering place for all to learn and share thoughts and ideas, and all of this for free. So thank you. Thank you to the sponsors, supporters of the Center for Black Literature and Culture at the Central Library in downtown Indianapolis. Here's to many, many more years of success. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Okay, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Technology is great until it doesn't work. So we're always ready to be flexible. And so next I want to introduce the president of the Black Caucus for the American Library Association, Shantae Burns Simpson, and she likes to tell everybody that I am the peanut butter to her jelly. So we've been working together probably about 9 months now, and it has been phenomenal. It's been in the middle of the pandemic for the entire time, but I've learned so much from her. We've had fun, we've cried, we've worked hard, late, early, and now I have 2 extra nephews. I'm TT to 2 young boys in New York, and so I just thank her so much for being able to bring greetings, and we're really excited to be able to partner with the Black Caucus for the American Library Association. And for those of you that are not aware, the Black Caucus is one of the National Librarians of Color organizations. And so we promote Black librarianship and also Black patrons and what they mean. And so this is our 51st year. And so we're very excited about all that we've done and all that we're going to do. And I'll hand it over to Shantae Burns-Simpson.
Thank you so much, Vice President Hayes. We are so honored and so proud of this amazing event. We are so happy to sponsor this program. And on a personal note, yes, she is the peanut butter to my jelly, and I just cannot imagine being in this role without an amazing Vice President as Nichelle M. Hayes has been. I just want to promote the mission of BCALA. The Black Caucus of the American Library Association serves as an advocate for the development, promotion, and improvement of library services and resources to the nation's African-American communities. And so this program is a fine example of an amazing resource for our nation's Black and Brown communities. So thank you again, and I look forward to sitting here watching this amazing day. Thank you, Vice President Hayes. Congratulations.
Thanks again to Judith Thomas and Shantae Burns-Simpson for counting it not robbery to take time out of their day to come and celebrate with us. As I said before, we would be nothing without the partners and the community support we have. So I just thank them so much. The next person who will be speaking is our interim CEO, Mr. John Helling, and he will now come to the podium.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to CBLC and Central Library. I'm John Helling. I'm the interim CEO of the Indianapolis Public Library. I want to thank you all for being here, and to those of you who are attending virtually, thank you as well. It means quite a lot to us that you would choose to spend your time with us and to help us celebrate the 4th anniversary of the CBLC. I've been very fortunate to be involved in this project since its inception in a small way, and I can tell you that to see it go from a sketch on a page to a physical space and now to an interactive, engaging environment has been extremely rewarding. There's just no better feeling as a librarian than to watch people interact in a well-designed space, and this space is obviously truly special. So the library is extremely proud of the CBLC and all the work that Nichelle has put into making it what it is. I also wanted to say that, it truly does take a village to produce something this special. And so there's a lot of library staff who participated in this, too many to name individually, but I want to thank them for that work. They know who they are. One who I do want to recognize specifically is Amira, our project coordinator for the project. Amira's put a lot of structure to the work and has really been invaluable, so thank you, Amira. And I also want to thank library's partners in Cloud Digital and RLR, who have been very kind to very generous with their time and their expertise. So thank you as well. We couldn't have done it without you. So again, welcome. Thank you for coming, and we're very glad that you're here with us. I'll turn it back over to Nichelle.
I want to thank John again for coming and bringing remarks. John has been with us since the very beginning, when we were sitting in this room and there wasn't anything on the walls, there wasn't anything in the windows. It was just a blank slate, and there were some images on a page and it kind of looked okay, but you didn't really know what was going to happen. And I will honestly say that I was blown away when I came into the room when everything was finished 4 years ago. It exceeded all of my expectations. And now with what we've done with this immersive technology, it's taken it to the next level. So I want to thank John for all of his support during this whole time. And he also was juggling some things with his young people at home. And so I appreciate him coming out here. And it really does take a village to do all of this work. And we're definitely going to be acknowledging people a little bit later in our program. The next person who is going to speak is Dr. Les Etienne, who is the founding director of the Africana Studies program at IUPUI. He is a great friend, a mentor. He came here probably 3 years ago and immediately embraced me. And I've learned so much from him and the work that he's doing at IUPUI. And so he's going to talk a little bit about our partnership and what they're doing at IUPUI. So please come forward, Dr. Les.
Good morning, good afternoon. Okay. Vertically challenged folks. And here comes Lurch. Thank you very much. So thank you. So I'd like to certainly thank Michelle, who was very kind in her comments and referring to me as a mentor, as she is my mentor. The wonderful thing about the synergy between the Center for Africana Studies and Africana Studies is the ability at IUPUI, is the ability for us to take our academic programming, take our cultural programming, and connect with community partners such as the CBLC. Michelle has always had an open door kind of policy with us, so we are able to bring our students here. There's pictures that I have pre-pandemic, pictures of my class sitting right where you're sitting and learning from Michelle and having assignments connected to books in the CBLC. So I think the synergy is perfect. And it's important that we continue to do the work that we're doing in that vein. Also, you know, Michelle has been gracious enough to take a faculty position with us. So she is one of our community scholars of Africana Studies. And is a member of the advisory board of our center. So I think as far as partnerships go, this is one of the best, and we're able to work in other areas, we're working solid together, and we're connected in other ways. We got that Coleman love, and so it's wonderful for us to be together, and it's great to be here today. And I really appreciate you giving me a chance to speak really quickly and just kind of sing your praises and talk about how great the CBLC is. I noticed that I have the wonderful pleasure of introducing the next person. And so this would be Miss January York, who has been a poet, writer, and performance artist for over a decade. And she is also a freelance writer, published author, who in addition to performing original poetry, has produced several of her own spoken word theatrical shows that focus on uplifting and inspiring women. So it is my great honor to introduce to you all Miss January York. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me. I've been trying not to. So it's such an honor to have been named. First, let me say it's an honor to be given a platform. It's an honor to have people willingly listen to you, and beyond listening, appreciate you. I have been in contact with Michelle for some years now, and she has always made me feel extremely appreciated, and I don't take that for granted, and I thank you. I thank you for seeing me and for making space for me. I'm not going to cry. And to be named the Poet Laureate is like, it's probably one of the top 2 best things that could ever happen for me as a poet, specifically because it's the CBLC, because it's my people. It's a space where when I first walked in, I was just like, I want to be on that wall. And so I'm on the wall. And I'm not going to cry. I really cannot believe that somebody's going to read my poems and get out your way. Again, thank you. Yes, so I'm going to pay homage to us, to grandmothers, and to the art of writing, of the arts. This space is absolutely beautiful. It has been since I first laid eyes on it, and it is continuing to grow in its beauty and in its energy. And I can't wait to come back in here and just sit and be and breathe. So thank you again for the space and for the time. So this first poem is Untitled. The very creation of this land sits on the wind of African spines that are buried beneath the dust of forgotten history books. Without us, there is no US, and certainly a lack of culture. Going back to Africa cannot reasonably apply when your birth home is situated this side of the equator line. Black people and the culture we create are as American as a warm slice of apple pie, dripping with caramel dipping and chocolate ice cream on the side. Africa may be etched in our roots, but our right now is created a continent away. I am the boom boom clap in hip hop, birthing Lawrence and Tupac's on the tips of the New York Times. I am the bending of rhymes in Fort Greene living rooms, boasting Harlem giants, sitting with folded legs and open notebooks. I am an American dream that won't be deferred, a Bronx tale of breakdancing in leather hats and stonewashed jeans, as American as a dream interrupted on sleepless nights in a Seattle. We are the art of survival, of turning master slop into dinner to feed hungry children, using our gut instincts as instruments to cook from the wells of our souls. You call it soul food, served in the back rooms on southern plantations, not Plymouth Rocks or Johannesburg huts, more like Jackson, Mississippi, and the backs of trucks traveling up Macon, Georgia dirt tracks, stretching to New Orleans jazz clubs with cigarette smoking, leaping baritone scats. We are holiday fruits and Creole voices, Renaissance movements, Coltrane choices, the second line, but the first people, a celebration of life and a resiliency that makes us equal. Black Americans create on American soil, the same places we helped to build, where our ideas were stolen and our identities trashed. But here, we have adapted to our native plains, and we've adopted and birthed and even created a culture of American Black names. Keisha, welcome to current times. The very creation of this land sits on the wind of African spines that are buried beneath the dust of forgotten history books. Without us, there is no US, and certainly a lack of American culture. Thank you. This poem is called Sweet Winona. This poem is dedicated to my grandmother. It's written about my grandmother and just Black grandmothers in general. To the grandmothers who were first mothers, or better yet, women, girls, daughters, to the daughters who blossomed into women, turned mothers who saw a new generation of their uterine holdings crescendo into this world. Thank you for your sacrifice. To the grandmothers or to the daughters who didn't know what their future held, but knew it didn't include the word back, the ones who helped pick greens and snap the peas, the ones who ran up red clay hills, scraping pretty brown knees. Mama said you couldn't go to church like that after putting a hole in your new Easter dress. To you, I say thank you for not being afraid to walk around with a stuff or two. To the grandmothers who were first mothers, or better yet, daughters, young women, young girls, who were told not to let the tub water out. Siblings had to bathe, and the outhouse ain't have much supply for separation. She who learned to whistle and kick rocks while standing in the rain without a care in her brain until a voice yelled her name from the crickety front porch. Get your Black behind in this house before I come out with my belt. Thank you for not being afraid of the water. To the grandmothers or the daughters parents who didn't cry when they picked the switch off the Delta Mississippi tree, who stood tall in front of parental caskets, ready to spearhead the rest of their siblings' growth, to the daughters who ran down dirt roads, hiding from the Klan while two pigtails shook loose on both the left and the right, who listened for safe silence and read books under bunks they were hidden in, to the daughters, the surviving daughters, who saw moonlight as daylight and sunshine as running time, sweet molasses, smiles, and knickerknockers on. Thank you for learning how to keep a tight grip, to the grandmothers who were once daughters, turned into mothers, who watched their lineage increase, to the grandmothers who shied away from robes and aprons, who walked barefoot on concrete, collected Cadillacs and gold rings, who loved Inquirer newspapers and little trinket things, to the grandmothers who didn't say I love you enough, but loved us more than we could handle, to the ones who broke tradition and did it their way, the grandmothers, the grandmothers who broke hearts and mended shoes, played jazz and the blues and never met a stranger that couldn't use more love, grandeur principals who snuck us candy and Pepsi while snickering at their frustrated daughters for the first words spoken while sitting on your lap. We, or in this instance, I, thank you for the hot water cornbread and the smell of bacon in the electric skillet, for the oven used as a cabinet, for the soft baked cookies and the lemon cakes baked over your laughter, for the pea-shaped trips and the card games, the cigarette smoke and the remembered names and the smell of your house and your musical voice, that raspy, raspy voice that never stopped your choice to speak and speak again. For the times you let us call you your first name, for letting me call you grandmother, for being our grandma, our G-mom, our grandmere. Thank you for being born and never giving up, even when the raisins in the sun dried up. Thank you for our mothers, who you carried and cradled into carrying and cradling us. Now we carry and cradle our own, turning our mothers into you until we are turned into her, into we, generational persons. Bad lady, don't you miss your crowd. Thank you for hanging down here with us. Thank you for the grandiose experience of your love, no matter how abundant, missing, or thinly wired, for the way we remember you, for the solo dance in your eyes, and for leaving when you got tired, to the grandmothers who were first mothers and once daughters, or better yet, Black women. Thank you for not being afraid of the water and for sticking around long enough to leave us with the ability to keep on swimming. Thank you. Yes. Poem, I'm gonna do a hybrid in honor of our hybrid. And I dedicate this poem to Michelle for all your hard work, for who you are, for the energy you bring, for the light that you bring, and for what you do for our community, for our kids, for us, for the artists, for the readers, for the writers, for everybody. So this is for you. You probably heard it 100 times, but this is for you, for us. Check me out. I'll be that full lip, wide nose, open toe shoe wearing, see a fine man, please believe I'm staring, thick hair, weave wearing, if my folks is having problems, I'm there type of woman. I'll be that dressed in Friday's best with pearls hanging from my neck, singing song after song until I work up a sweat in your local juke joint type woman. I'll be the lady who sings the blues type of woman. I am every woman. It is all in me. Check me out. I'll be that afro sporting, Jerry curl rocking, pressing comb, finger wave, perm my hair to keep it straight, no lie type of woman. I'll be that stand by my man like Coretta, Betty, and Merle, no matter if it's early in the morning or late at night. I'll be a participant in the fight for my equal rights type of woman. I'll be that marching on Washington woman. I'll be the queen of the Nile. See these wide hips? That's why I walk with a smile. And if you listen for a while, you will hear the African drums beating when I walk. English ain't my first language. It's just how I was raised to talk. I'll be that Angela Davis, fist to the sky, Black Panthers by my side, ride or die type of woman. I'll be that Renaissance woman, able to talk in both street and corporate slang, transcending from cheap shots of cognac to high-priced martinis, whichever matches the conversation I'm using to stimulate your brain. I'll be that no pain, no gain type of woman. woman. I go from Jordans to pumps, from a beat up hoopty to a chromed out Benz. I am the strong type of woman that knows that everybody I meet really ain't my friend. I be that freedom white woman. They wanted my kids to be illiterate, but I kept them reading and writing type of woman. I am a Selma marching woman. If you want to be starting something, I'm that woman. I be that God-fearing choir singing. Take your sweater off because I am bringing the heat type of woman. I am a no two just alike, but we are all the same type of woman. That rich, thick, melanin, caramel, chocolate, butterscotch, light, dark, and medium tinted skin coated type of woman. Check me out. See, the skin I'm living in represents a legacy. No doubt I be that Josephine Baker, Dorothy Dandridge door opening woman, that Maya Angelou intellect probing woman, that Oprah Winfrey tune into the after show for the real story to be told type of woman. Like fine wine, I get better with time. I never grow old type of woman. I am a jack of all trades. I am a woman of many shades. I keep my eyes on the prize and in my mind a master plan. I am a jazzy, hip hop and rhythm and blues, fear of no clan type of woman. Check me out. I am an African American type of woman, and you don't have a clue why I do what I do, but I do what I do just for you, for your freedom song to sing above the clouds and cruise at altitudes foreign to you. I want to wipe the dust off your shoulder, move the debris out of your pathway. May these poems blow southwest winds against the northeast tumbleweeds headed to cloud your dreams. I like to say the overdrawn from completely checking out, for the normal genes to get lost in between Monroe tactics, for the practical and the unpredictable, for the dances with no balance, for the 5, 6, 7, 8 hundreds of thousands of dethroned kings cooking up ancestral moans in rocks meant for smoking through broken antennas. I like to say the future teenage girls, because what if I could change her direction? Writing with the blood of the neglected, writing through the stifled sinuses of the rejected. I am unprotected like a fertile to a ripening womb, tight and pregnant, holding capitalized secrets in lowercase print. It was a cold night in December when I saw a halo. It was hanging over a ballpoint pen. Poetry is my walk-in closet. Kick your feet up in my den of lyrical equity. I do the opposite of what is expected of me. I started writing to make sense out of the sentence. My 5 senses wouldn't let me miss this, but the ink went blank, so I put my tongue on the tip. And because I am a poet, I have been right ever since. I fear my own lyrical mortality more than my final casket label. Once I get here in this space, my own personal Pluto, this here plateau of poetry, the proven history of this violence is that I come alive up here so much that when you see me sitting, consider me in my post-mortem pose. Post-mortem prose, lights out, everybody knows that dying is so easy. That's why I stay so pensive. Almost every time I spit, and you can literally see me spitting. I really hate that, but this is me living, taking a breath I only get to engulf when I am with you. I guess you could say I wish we lived together, shacked up and ringless, menage like me, you, me, in this stage, and I don't need a mic for this. This is me, alive, full blown. That's why my poems be so long, because I want to live for more than 3 minutes most times. So never mind who can't get it or who ain't with it. Fools are you shot me, but you can't change who I am. Or off the trail of my lyrical umbilical that leads to the lights of audience smiles. I get born again up here, and I mean it. This is life up here. Who am I to not lean forward, to lean forward, to stand, hoping not to disappoint this time, hoping to come alive by rhyme, to be totally honest and 100% true. And when I come alive on this stage, I am secretly hoping that I could bring life back to you. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. That was phenomenal. So I first saw January York in this room. She was at that piece open mic, and she was performing. And I was like, oh, you know, she's great. Then we brought her in for something else. And then when I had the opportunity to have the first ever CBLC Poet Laureate, I was like, you know, January York is definitely someone we should think about having. We had a committee, they agreed, and then the rest is history. She has a book out, Nomad. She actually didn't mention that, but I'm gonna mention it for her. And she's just doing some phenomenal things in the community. She's bearing her soul to us. This is an offering to us, and we thank you for what you're giving us. And we receive it. So next, if Amira Malcolm could come up to the podium, and John Helling mentioned her just a moment ago. Amira Malcolm is the Center for Black Literature and Culture project manager. And so what that means is that she was in charge of getting all these pieces rolling for the second phase, the immersive technology, screens on the walls, new signage, everything. And so she came on board in January. Seems like it's been 2 years, but because it's COVID time. But she's just been really doing an amazing job. We thank her, we appreciate her for all of the hard work that she's done. If everybody can give her another warm round. And so I'm just going to give a quick overview of the Center for Black Literature and Culture in the beginning. So the previous CEO and library board members had a thought of having an area that was devoted to Black literature and culture. And so this is a place where you want to come for depth, where you want to deep dive, where you want to get everything about Maya Angelou that we might have, everything about Mari Evans, everything about effort tonight. This is not excluding anything else in the system, but it's a place where we can come, where we can learn. It's a place that's windows and mirrors. So if you're a part of our culture, you can see yourself reflected in powerful ways. If you're not a part of our culture, you can learn about us through the windows and getting a deeper understanding of who we are. And so, as I said, that started 5 years ago. Mike Williams was the area regional manager at that time. So there were a lot of people that helped us, the IT department, CMSA, I always mix up the acronyms, but basically they work with procurement and moving things around with books in the collection. Then we had communications, we had facilities. There were just a lot of people, especially the people here at Central. They really poured their hearts into getting this off the ground. And so it was a labor of love. I went on trains, planes, and automobiles to go across the country. I went to the Schomburg, I went to DC, I went to Atlanta to get some best practices and learn about what some other people were doing to see what we could bring here in the space. So we are focused on Indianapolis and Indiana. And what I wanted most of all is for people to walk into this space and look up at the windows and around the niches and to see people that reflected them. And I wanted them to say, wow, Vivica Fox became a producer and an actress. She grew up here. She breathed the same air. She's from the east side of Indianapolis. What is it that I could do? And so the sky's the limit, and I wanted to encourage people. And I think that that has happened, and so it's been very successful in that vein. And so then we started the second phase, and I'm going to hand it over to Amira, but I just want to say again, she jumped in with both feet. She's been working hard, corralling everybody together, keeping everything moving with a lot of different people. And so I really, really appreciate all the hard work that she's done. And so I'm going to let her speak for herself. Thank you so much.
It brings me a lot of joy to see all of you in this room and to see everything all together, because as Michelle said, we did jump in earlier in this year just with both feet and kind of letting the rubber hit the road and seeing what we can get accomplished in about 9 or 10 months time. I'm just really excited to share with you kind of the meat of phase 2 and just kind of talk about the windows and mirrors that Michelle mentioned. But I titled this small presentation For the Culture because I really wanted to, in this process, involve the windows and the mirrors to allow people who are not of our culture to be able to really understand from a deeper perspective, something that they may not have learned in school or from other people. And a lot of this is also a departure from an academic perspective of Blackness, of Black culture, because we want this to be for us, by us. So moving on to my next slide, the essential meat of CBLC phase 2 is for this to be a technological deep dive of Indianapolis Black history and culture, and also a glimpse into the future for what we can accomplish. So the way we accomplished that goal was a lot of technological advances, the most notable being our interactive kiosks that we have in the space. So there are 5 interactive kiosks that we decided to focus on the areas of Indianapolis, Black heritage, Black literature, Black culture, the African diaspora, and Black librarianship, which is integral to our culture as a library and as an academic institution as well. So moving on to the next part of the presentation, we can get to some of the first looks at our kiosk. So a lot of the things that we wanted to incorporate are things that are integral to Indianapolis culture and integral to Black culture as well. So for example, in this first look, we're taking a look at Black librarianship and the African diaspora and looking at Kabir's Storytelling Drummers, which is also the inspiration for our service mark, which is a drum, which is a part of our epicenter, which is the epicenter of the space and epicenter of our culture and the rhythm that drives us, which January so eloquently put together for us earlier. So moving on to the next part. Many months, the months that went into this project were spent talking to people in the community, talking to different technological partners that helped us bring this together. One of the most exciting parts of this project that we were able to 3D scan a lot of some integral parts of Indianapolis history, one of them being the 1956 trophy for the Crispus Attucks High School and some other parts that you'll be able to see in our kiosks today. There's also an associated web presence for those kiosks, which you'll be able to view from home, and then I'll get into a little bit later. But it was definitely a series of events that would not be able to be recreated if we were able to do it over. So I'm really grateful for the people that we were able to have. Some other topics that were covered were the Black Lives Matter mural that was on Indiana Avenue. We talk about the effects of redlining and gentrification in Indianapolis, the importance of small Black churches and other religious institutions in Indianapolis, and also the history of our library as a system as well. So in addition to these kiosks, we also made updates to other parts of the space. As you can see, we have a new service mark. We've updated our children's shelving to once again bring in those windows and mirrors, because these shelves allow the covers of the books to be shown. So a child can literally see themselves in our collection and reach out and pick something up. We also added new mobile shelving for the CBLC, which will allow us to show even more of those books. And we also have 2 beautiful new screens for digital signage in the space as well, which we're really looking forward to using for Meet the Artist and other events as well, to be able to continue to promote that. In addition to all the things that we have happening today, there is a lot more in store. So we're really looking forward to sharing a lot more of our culture with you, sharing more of the space with you, and being able to just be even more a part of the culture. So for those of you viewing at home, everything available in our kiosks is also available online. If you want to open up a second tab and head to www.cblc.ndpl.org, you'll be able to access all of the information that's in our kiosks and all of the upcoming information as well. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As I said before, she's done an amazing job, and we're so excited that she's part of our team. And so can we all give her another round of applause? So I would like to acknowledge a letter that we have from Representative Andre Carson, member of Congress. October 23rd, 2021. Dear friends, welcome to the 4th anniversary of the Center for Black Literature and Culture and the completion of its 2nd phase. I regret previous commitments prevent me from joining you today, but I know this project is close to my heart. I commend the Indianapolis Public Library for dedicating a physical space and related programming to highlight the vibrant and resilient heritage of those born with African roots. The use of immersive technology that amplifies Black voices is an important addition to the CBLC and is sure to engage even more individuals with this collection of work. I look forward to visiting Central Library again soon and seeing the names of Black authors in the limestone throughout the library, as well as the artwork of murals created by local artists. On behalf of the 7th Congressional District of Indiana I thank each of you for your efforts to make this project a success. We are truly fortunate to have the Center for Black Literature and Culture as a part of our community. Sincerely, Andre Carson. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Representative Carson's grandmother, Representative Julia Carson, is on display in our space as well. So we still speak her name, and she's definitely one of the shoulders that we stand on. Amira mentioned Kabir's Storyteller Drummers, and I want to mention that group. They drummed us into this space 4 years ago. Kabir has now gone on to be with the ancestors, but his presence is still felt in our city and still felt in our space. So when you go into the epicenter in the middle of the CBLC and you hear that drumming, he and the rest of his group, that is them performing. So he continues to live on. So if we could give Baba Kabir a round of applause for all that he. Next, we are going to have Jasmine come and perform for us, along with her keyboardist, Freddie. I met Jasmine at the Butter event in the Stutz Library, Stutz building this summer. I was blown away by her singing and by her story, and I reached out to her. We were able to coordinate, and then she agreed to come and perform for us. So if everyone could give her a warm round of applause, and she will come to the podium.
I just want to say that it's such an honor to be here amongst you guys doing something so beautiful and special and intimate and vulnerable and powerful. This is just breathtaking, just kind of being here and experiencing what you guys have put in just so much effort into. And Michelle, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, for doing your due diligence to make this available for us. So we are going to go ahead and sing Summertime.
There's
Oh, Daddy, come on, baby, stay. Standing by summertime,
Give a round of applause for her keyboard. Well, that was beautiful. Between the poetry and the other remarks and just the space we're in and just what I feel today, I'm really overcome in a really positive way. This has really come together. I'll be honest, at the beginning of the week, we were all like, oh my God, what's going on? Are we gonna be able to make it? But we kept on pressing on toward the mark for the high calling, and we just didn't give up, and we kept the faith. And a lot of people supporting us. My family is here, and I thank them for coming and supporting me. I also thank all of the staff members that volunteered, staff members that came on their off day. People were here on their vacation, and I appreciate that. And so the staff here are just really incredible, just very supportive, in person, online, encouraging you, telling you not to give up. And so we have a really great group of colleagues here, and I don't want any of them to forget that you're doing incredible work, and the community sees that, and we appreciate you. So now what I'm going to try to do, anyone who is a volunteer or a staff member who's worked on this, if you could please stand, because that way I won't miss anyone. We have a former employee who's going to come later. We have Kimberly Brown Harden, Naomi Allensworth. We have Stephen Lane. I'm missing people because I can't see people's minds. Oh, we have Kim Jones Yours. She's here. We also will be remiss if we didn't again mention RLR, who is our design firm. Brianna Metzger is here. She was our lead. We thank the Plow organization who did the kiosk and all that technology. Just so many people, and we have some certificates that we're going to hand out later. But again, we thank you so much for everything you did. And so the next person who's going to come to the podium is Mahassan Amin. She is the current president of the Indiana Black Librarians Network, which is an affiliate of the Black Caucus for the American Library Association. They are going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, and we are so excited that they are celebrating that with us. I'm a member of that organization, and I'm the immediate past president. I'm so proud of Mahassan and all the amazing work she's done. She's a former staff member. I was almost about to say she is a staff member because it feels like she's still with us because she's so supportive of everything we do. And so I'm going to hand it over to her. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. My name is Mahassan Amin, and I did work here for quite a lot of time. And so I'm here to talk to you about a professional organization that is designed for Black librarians and Black staff in libraries. You can go to the next slide. So our goals are to provide an opportunity for Black librarians to exchange and share ideas, to collaborate on library-related projects, to promote professional development activities, to sponsor scholarship programs, to serve as a network for the sharing of information between libraries and paraprofessionals throughout the state of Indiana. Our goal is to establish channels of communication between Black librarians and paraprofessionals statewide. So, wait, you skipped this slide, go back. Oh, yeah, so that's the slide that I want. No, yeah. So this is a newspaper clipping that I pulled from the Indianapolis Recorder, and this is to show how important mentorship and the acknowledgement of children of color. So it's the context of this article is that the students are feeling very discouraged that their teachers weren't interested in the work that they were doing. And so the Clifton Library, which was the Riverside Library eventually, they really made a point to make their building accessible to children, specifically Black children, to make sure that they knew that there were people that were invested in these children. So the quote that I decided to select is, "Their surroundings is pleasant and it allows kids to know that they and their academic careers are important." So if you could go to the art history one. So our history, we officially incorporated October 13th, 2001 at Purdue University's Black Cultural Center. No, I'll just do this. So this was created so that we could discuss ideas and foster collaboration reports and discuss issues that are unique to Black librarians. There has always been a need for a coalition of Black librarians because we have a different experience than other people. But it is important that we have a visual representation so that the next generation can view Black librarians and not see us as an oddity. So our founding members are Dr. Grace Jackson Brown from Indiana University. The vice president was Dorothy Ann Washington from Purdue University. The secretary was Monique Frett, who is still at IU. And the treasurer was Samuel Custard for the Gary Public Library. Our group is open to everyone at every level, at every type of institution, because we're here to support Black librarians and Black paraprofessionals so that there are more of us in the field. So if you want to do, yeah, okay, so current leadership. Me, Mahasa Amin from IUP Live University Library. The vice president is Lauren Freeman. She is an adult reference librarian at the Warren branch. Our secretary is Rhonda Gordon. She is the manager of the Lawrence branch. And our membership chair is Annette Mugaya. She works for Butler University. I wanted to show the current membership and the past membership because they're connected. All of these people come from different institutions with different backgrounds so that we can collaborate and communicate effectively about issues that we face. So if you are interested in joining, you can visit our website, which is indianablacklibrarians.net. And that is all. I'm clumsy.
Thank you so much, Mahasa. We appreciate that. Let's give her another round of applause. So Mahasa is another one of those amazing people. You know, you give her a task and she goes above and beyond. She's so intelligent. She has so much knowledge and skill, as well as kindness. And so we're so happy to have her in the profession. And we're so happy that she's helping to lead the Indiana Black Librarians Network. So that's my warm show. So the next person who's going to speak is our area regional manager, and that is Connie Scott. And she is going to introduce Dr. Dickerson, who will speak immediately after her. And Connie is new to our system, but she's not new to librarianship. So we're so excited and happy to have her with us. She came from Fort Wayne. She's originally from Gary, Indiana, and she's just come in and really wrapped her arms around us and trying to figure out everything. This is a huge system, a lot of different moving parts, but we're so excited about what she's bringing to the table. So if we can give Connie Scott a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a celebration. Let's get a round of applause for what we've enjoyed thus far. Mural. I just have a few remarks this afternoon. Today we are celebrating 4 years of the Center for Black Literature and Culture. Now, in the United States, when you celebrate the 4th anniversary, traditionally, it is celebrated with gifts of fruit and flowers, while the modern celebration is appliances. Well, I think this is an appropriate symbolism for the center. Both are seen here today. The CBLC is fruit and is good for us. It's healthy, and the flowers are always beautiful. Now, appliances are practical, useful, and needed. So the CBLC is telling the beautiful story, much like a rose, of our history, and also the terrible part of our history. But they now have added new technology that is purposeful, practical, and useful to move us on to the 21st century. So I thank our entire library leadership here for the support and the tireless work of my sister and her big vision. Michelle is truly a culture keeper. Embodies the spirit of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But not only that, she has a servant's heart for her community and her profession. So we want to thank each and every one for coming out. And thank you for the elders. I want to acknowledge you for being here. Thank you. Now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Dr. Tony G Dickerson. I met this young man at one of the quilting programs that we had, and she is passionate about all that she does. She's a lifelong sewist and a second-generation quilter who turned her focus from creating clothing to the art of manipulating tiny pieces of fabric at the tender age of 50. Born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, she spent more than 30 years as an educator in the Kansas City, Missouri area before returning home in 2017. She is the founder and president of the Acoma Intoso Modern Quilt Guild of Central Indiana. She is a semi-retired Title I interventionist and spends as much time as she can quilting, gardening, and caring for her 2 fur babies, Star and Khaleesi. As an educator, she dedicates her efforts towards passing on the skill of sewing and quilting to her great nieces and nephews, one who is as young as 7 years old. Her guild members balance their efforts towards those projects that are aesthetically comforting and those that are socially relevant in education. Let's welcome Dr. Tony G Dickerson.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony G Dickerson, born and raised here in Indianapolis, and just got back into town and started quilting a little while ago. And I want to say, as January did, that a great big thank you has to be given to Miss Michelle Hayes. And I mean, a really big thank you. A couple of my notes talk about the fact that I was thinking you are so on track with what's going on in the quilting world. African-American quilters are on the scene. There is a retrospective of Faith Ringo in Baltimore right now that shows the history of her life, work. But Bisa Butler has taken the world by storm, and the first quilt to be put on Chicago. She has a retrospective now in Chicago, but she's on the Essence magazine that you have back there. She's on Time magazine. She just did Questlove on the New York Times. Sarah Trail has a new book out that has a foreword by Jesse Jackson and Hillary Clinton. And so you are so on the right track and the right side of what's going on in history with what African-American quilters are bringing to the culture right now. I want to say thank you on behalf of our guild. I feel like I'm such a newbie here in my city that I was born and raised in. You know, I left here in a car at 17 and didn't think I would ever be back. And so to come back and to start a quilt guild, the first modern African-American quilt guild that's part of the modern quilt guild in the nation, right here in Indianapolis, and to be offered a space in this beautiful section of this library was just mind-blowing. So much that it encouraged me to take the last quilt that was hanging up in this area and present it to the Dorchester Center for the Arts. And so it will be exhibited there. But I also will have a quilt in the James Museum. And I am featured in Sarah Trail's book about stolen lives. But all of that is to say, that is happening because you reached out to our guild and said, hey, I heard you all quilt a little bit. You want to come and put something in our space? That 6-year-old great niece who has the Sankofa bird back there did that because we had an opportunity that was presented to us. So it is the opportunities that encourage us to go forward. It is the opportunities that give us the rise to do something beyond what we think we can do on a daily basis. So on behalf of our guild, Akomo and Toso, which is an Adinkra symbol for linked hearts and understanding, the importance of Adinkra symbols to, I just had a quote that I found that just says, souls do not require human language to communicate. They can speak to each other through signs and symbols, feelings, and poetry. And so to include the Adinkra symbols in such a space as this is such an important step. But I'm going to diverge for 5 seconds and say that although I've learned a lot of things in my life, the part that caused me and almost brought me to tears was the librarianship exhibit. I did not know that. One of my prized possessions is my 2nd grade library card that I actually must have made a mistake on and put in another. And the library was so important to me as a child. And to see what we had to go through in order to just be in spaces like this, what an important part you're playing in bringing that information to those of us who thought we do a little bit about a lot of stuff. So thank you again. We appreciate you. The Guild will always be here to support you because you supported us first. So thank you again, Ms. Michelle Hayes. We appreciate you. You are on the right track. The center is on the pulse of what's going on, not just in the country, but I think you're leading what's going on in the country. And we appreciate that and we thank you for that. I really appreciate Dr. Dickerson for joining forces with us. And she didn't tell you that we worked on this exhibit for over a year. So we started working on it before COVID, and then everything was turned upside down. and she was patient, her group continued to work, and then we were finally able to put things on display. So those quilts are in the south end of the room. So feel free after the program is over to look at those things, and perhaps Dr. Dickerson can answer some questions. But Adinkra symbols are so powerful, and those are symbolized in our service mark and around the space. And so it's definitely a learning opportunity for all of us. And we thought that the quilts were a really, really powerful way to talk about that. Next, I am going to introduce Dr. Michael Twyman. And he is going to talk a little bit about the engraving project we have. And I would be remiss if I didn't introduce or recognize the chairperson of that engraving project, who is Tariq Robinson. He's in the back of the room. And we want to thank him for everything he's done.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm just so excited to be able to share some information with you. First of all, just congratulations to the CLBC and all the great work that's being done here, and for the great leadership, Michelle Hayes, the staff, and for all those who volunteer and make what this both facility and what it provides to our community such an excellent resource. And so I am just, again, delighted and honored to be here. I'm going to talk specifically about the engraving project. If you look around for a moment, and I want you to do the same thing when you go out into the foyer, there are different markings in this building. Some that really begin to document history and feature the names of individuals. Of course, we've done a great job of being able to memorialize individuals in this space. But over the period of time that this building has been here, we have been remiss in terms of really giving an accurate narrative and recognition of those who have contributed both artistically through literature, through philosophy, through the humanities. So when you go out and if you haven't before, they're etched along the facade in the front, as well as in the Greek building at the very top, were names of different authors, writers, philosophers. Of those names that are included, there are no persons of color. There are maybe 5 women, and there are a total of 81 names. So in 2021, the library said it's kind of overdue. We need to really begin to correct the narrative. And so we are excited because some of you may have had taken advantage of the opportunity to submit names that could be included in the area that I'm going to talk about, which is right in front of the I always say CBLC. And it is really kind of the first of more to come. But there are going to be 10 names. All of these individuals are of African descent that will replace the names that are in the foyer immediately outside of this CBLC. And again, this is just the start. I have had the great opportunity to work alongside the library through the endowment fund, which I established here maybe 8-9 years ago. There are so many other funders and supporters of this great work, and we're just excited about the future. So just within a few months, today was just kind of a teaser to let you know, if you, hadn't paid attention, take a look at what the names are that are surrounding the building here. And then just within a couple of months, it's going to look different. And we're going to be telling you more about that. I think you're going to be excited. Thank you, Michelle.
I just want to thank Dr. Twyman again for the work that he's doing with the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation and the library. He has been working for quite a long time alongside us, and we thank him very much for his support. I wanted to make sure that I mention my family that's here. I would be remiss if I didn't do that. I am the daughter of Sylvia, who is the daughter of Anna Mae. And my aunt is here as well as my cousin and my daughter. And so they have supported me since the very beginning when I was a little kid running around, probably not doing anything right. And they love me unconditionally. And so that unconditional love has enabled me to do what I'm doing right now. My mother getting me a library card at the Emerson branch, that was my library. And I just was so excited every time I walked into that door. And so she unlocked that love of reading. My aunt Eleanor, she helped me to learn how to read when I was in kindergarten. So I had to see Sam read, run books, and I would go to her house and we would go over them and practice. And so I just love them so much. I thank them for everything that they poured into me. And my family's the best, and there's no arguing about it. And I also have to give a shout out to my little cousin Crystal, who's here as well. And I love her lots, and she's the best. So thank you. So we are coming to our main event. We're going to have a moderated conversation with A'Lelia Bundles. She is a daughter of Indianapolis. She is an author, she is a historian, she's a researcher, she's a producer. She's a woman of conviction and courage. And she was one of the first people to reach out to me when I received this position. She didn't know me from anybody. And she just said, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I know you can do it. This is gonna be incredible. And I called my family and told her, I said, oh my God, A'Lelia Bundles just sent me. I can't believe it. And she's just been so supportive from then until now. I've learned so much from her, and I'm continuing to learn from her. And her love for Indianapolis goes deep. And sometimes when we love someone and something, we have to chastise them. We have to get them to improve. And so I was honored to be at the Indiana Historical Society Living Legacy Award a couple of weeks ago, where she received an award, and she was able to speak truth to power. And I hope people were listening. And so she really has a word, and I'm excited about having a conversation with her today. And so now I'm going to go ahead and go over to the chair where we'll segue, and I'm going to have Mike Williams help me with this so everything doesn't tumble down.
So Michelle, when Dr. Dickerson said a great big thank you, I was like, yes, we need to seriously. And while she's doing that, there is so much talent in Indianapolis. I grew up here. I graduated from North Central in 1970, so like 1,000 years ago. And there are periods of time when I don't come, but in the last few years, I've been here a lot, except, COVID, I couldn't be here, except I was here on Zoom. And now every time I come home, I hear something new. Poet laureate, oh my God. Jasmine, thank you, beautiful. Dr. Dickerson, I can't wait to see the quotes, but just your voice and your testimony. I'm just so glad to be here. I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you so much. So can you tell us what keeps you busy right now? What kind of things are you working on, or can you even?
Of course, yeah,
You do it.
So my morning starts like I listen to NPR, I wake up, I go to the gym because that has now become like necessary for my mental health. And then I write. I mean, I write all day now. The writing thing is I'm almost finished with a book, a biography of William Walker. That's really, really overdue. But I'm gotta finish it by January. But the writing thing is some days I may get a lot done, and some days I may procrastinate. I think that's part of the deal. And then after 4 o'clock, I try to do phone calls and that kind of thing. But it's, I walk around in my garden a little bit when I need a break.
So what are you doing in your garden? What kind of things are you doing?
My mother, actually, everybody in my family was a gardener. My father's father did yard work, and so he planted the trees in our yard. My father loved gardening.
he tweaked around. My brother Lance, in the house that I grew up in on the Grandview Drive, he had a big hibiscus plant that he loved, and my brother died a couple of years ago, and I've now planted 2 hibiscus bushes in my yard. I bought a gardenia. So this year is the first time I've been in a long time, and really in my adult life during COVID, the first time that I haven't really traveled a lot. So I was able to commune with my yard. So I've got all kinds of hydrangeas and all kinds of flowers. So I love being out there. It's really good for my spirit.
Awesome. I've been doing some gardening too, but we're not gonna go.
But you grow food. You actually grow things that
I
you
did
can
some
eat.
fruits and vegetables, and COVID was a time for me to be able to, I couldn't go anywhere. We were all in punishment for nothing we did. So it was traveling from the front yard to the backyard. And so tomatoes, eggplants, just a lot of things. So it's been.
Are you canning?
Amazing. I'm not. I haven't got into canning yet. But I've grown greens too, mustard. I've got some collards. They'll be ready for Thanksgiving. So yeah, I've got a lot of things to work. So okay, back to Olivia. So
this is going to be a conversation. I'm just telling you, but okay.
So I know that you're going to be speaking at the Indiana Library Federation conference. That's in November, and Mike Williams is actually the current president of that organization. And do you know what you're going to talk about, or what's your ties to libraries? What history do you have with libraries?
So, I was a bookworm. We grew up on Grandview Drive, so that was Washington Township. And at that point, the Indianapolis Public Library was for the city. So I did not grow up coming to the public library in downtown Indianapolis. We went to our school library. And Grandview School, which is now, I think, Sycamore, it's not Grandview School, it's not my elementary school anymore, it's a private school. But it was, 4 blocks from my house. And so in the summers, I was one of those kids who was in the summer library program. We had a little pie chart, and you would color it in with colored pencils if you read fiction, if you read science, if you read whatever. So I was always the first one to finish my pie chart. I was that kid who really loved the library. And I actually learned the Dewey Decimal System in elementary school. This is like the total nerd thing. And so when I got to high school, when I got to North Central, I knew the Dewey Decimal System, and this is like a total aside, I'm gonna go back to something else, but I knew the Dewey Decimal System, and I took the test. And the librarian thought I had cheated on the test because I was a little black girl and didn't know the Dewey Decimal System. But I helped shelve books in elementary school. Now, don't ask me about the Dewey Decimal System at all. Yeah, zero. But I love reading, and I remember I was drawn to the biography books. There were some library bound books, and I don't know who the publisher was, but they were blue. The outside was blue. And I remember reading a lot of those books. But there were no Black women in that collection. There were a couple of women, I think Louisa May Alcott and maybe Clara Barton. I don't remember any Black men. Booker T. Washington was probably in there. But I do remember Newt Rockney. Now, really, Newt Rockney, he was the football coach at Notre Dame. I was not really into football. Yeah, I was in, I guess, Indiana. But I remember that unusual name. But I just remember that biographies were inspiring. I had no idea that I would eventually become a biographer, but I was really drawn to those stories of inspiration.
So where do you see Indianapolis going? What do you think our future looks like? You come back so often, you support so many things. Your research is so important for us to know what Madam Walker did, her philanthropy. I think we can still learn a lot from what Madam did. And I also take a lot of inspiration from her. So what is it that you can share with Indianapolis that we can kind of hold on to help us go through these next couple of years, because we're not out of the woods?
Well, it's such a big question, and I feel as if, as Dr. Dickerson said, I feel like I'm, a newbie to my hometown, because every time I come home, I learn something new, and I see the amazing range of things that people are doing. Last night, I happened to go to the Indianapolis Professional Association's networking event. So Willis Bright was there speaking, the brother who's the CEO of Citizens Energy was there. And I listened to some of the plans that they have in terms of expanding the workforce, in terms of listening to people across the economic spectrum, everything from business to mental health. I look at, when I was here a couple of weeks ago, I went to 16 Tech 3 days in a row. And just to see the businesses that are being developed behind the scenes in the Machine Works lab, and the people who are doing the food vending, to look at what butter is doing, to look at what Molly Jeffers and Alan Bacon are doing, really lifting up the cultural scene.
Tell people a little bit more about butter.
So butter, butter, and Gang Gang is a cultural, essentially an entrepreneurial cultural group that Molly Jeffers and Alan Bacon founded within the last year. And they just have big ideas about what culture should be and how Indianapolis people should center on the amazing array of talent that is here. And they brainstormed this amazing event called Butter that was at the Stutz building, and they cleared out a really sort of messy warehouse space and invited something like 20 or 30 artists, almost all from Indianapolis, who put their work on display. And the idea with the business model is to sell the art and for all of the money to go to the artists.
And that's what I saw jazz,
right? And it was 3 days of art, music, conversation, poetry, catered food by Black caterers. It's just an amazing space. It is kind of an Indianapolis art basement. It is a really big deal, and people they don't necessarily know all of these artists who are in Indianapolis, and they're trying to lift that up.
It was amazing. I saw Gary G, and he's been a part of Meet the Artist before. And I didn't mention, and I'll go ahead and throw it in now, that the Center for Black Literature and Culture stands on the shoulders of the African American History Committee. So that is the longest standing running committee within the library. So I think it's been running for about 45 plus years. And so Meet the Artist came 32 years ago, and Tony Radford is our artist in residence. And so that was his idea, to put a spotlight on artists because they didn't have a place to showcase. And so that's something we do in February. So Gary G has been one of those artists, and many others were also part of Butter. So there can't be enough opportunities for artists to be able to present themselves and show their wares and to make money, because they are, full-time artists. And so I'm excited about what they're doing. And there's a lot more room for us to promote art in our city, because you shouldn't have to go someplace else, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, to do that. I think you can do that here in Indianapolis.
Well, and this just sort of ties on, what's happening in Indianapolis. I want to talk about Indiana Avenue, but this idea of a generation of people who left. A lot of people in my generation left, a lot of people stayed. But when I finished college, I came back, I worked at WTLC this summer. Yeah, I was in the news department, heart and soul. And so, I love those. But I was here for that summer, but I applied for, I wanted to, interview at the TV stations. Well, I couldn't even get an interview. So things have changed a lot. But I did not see a place for myself in what I wanted to do at that point. Well, again, things have changed. But there are, you are here, Molly and Alan, there are other people, Judith Thomas,
Susan Hall Dodson, right. Dr. Les Etienne.
Exactly.
We've got a lot of talent.
We are going to make Indianapolis pay attention. It is what the mirrors and the windows. We are staking our claim. We deserve to be here. We are going to help Indianapolis be even better. And that is what is so important. And I sort of translate that beyond the cultural piece and the intellectual piece. It's also the business piece. It's what Kelly Jones is doing. It is, I know you're going to be okay, so I'm not reaching over to try to get, do a Heimlich on her, because I just need something to drink, okay? But it is, the cultural piece makes the city better. Sports help the city. but it is also the business, and it is supporting Black entrepreneurship. And so when I look at, I went to the Bottle Works when I was here as well, and I look at 16 Tech, and I know, you know, Broad Ripple's been there for a long time, Virginia Avenue, Massachusetts Avenue, and then I look at Indiana Avenue, and I'm like, why is it that this is the place that's still a parking lot? Why is Northwestern the place that they never even drive down? So I grew up on Grandview Drive, just north of Kessler. So when my mother would go to work every day at the Walker Building, she would drive down Northwestern. That was before I-65 was there. And so now I intentionally drive down Northwestern. That's where my church used to be. My church, Witherspoon Presbyterian, which is now on 421, was torn down to build a highway. And people think, well, that, there's that sort of history of, you had the redlining map. Oh, well, those Black neighborhoods are gone because those people must not have taken care of their houses. Those neighborhoods deteriorated because they weren't taking care of their houses. Well, in fact, that was a middle-class, working-class neighborhood with very stable families. But with this sort of intentional redlining and disinvestment and banks not lending to Black people, people would have remodeled their houses as they do now. They take out their equity and remodel their houses. But banks wouldn't do that. And so over time, the neighborhood around Indiana Avenue, the neighborhood up Northwestern, up to 30th Street, those neighborhoods deteriorated. And so those neighborhoods were destroyed. And now people just drive right over them on 65 and they have no idea what is there. And so that's a great concern to me, because I know Indianapolis is not the only place where that happened. There are other cities where Black neighborhoods were allowed to deteriorate, highways divided those neighborhoods. But there are other cities that are now saying we need to do something different. The Rethink Coalition here is saying that we don't build another big highway to the neighborhood. Don't make a problem that's already worse. Let's build them underground. Let's invest in those neighborhoods. And that's sort of my big dream right now, is that Indiana Avenue becomes something that is a destination, that is a rebirth that really honors the heritage. Not just another apartment building, but something that honors the culture and the business tradition.
I agree. That's really, really important. And it's important what you just mentioned about the redlining and how that still has an impact. And when you look at those boundaries, you can see that those areas are still affected with poverty, with illness, joblessness, I mean, you name it. And there's a reason to that. And there's also a lasting impact of Unigov. So we were told a lot of things about Unigov and how it was going to do some things for us. And it did improve some things for some people, but for other people it did not. And so now we know that there's that consequence, whether it was unintended or not. So what are we going to do about it? We can't just keep on sweeping it under the rug and thinking that it's going to go away. We've got to look at these problems and tackle them and do something about it. And what I would say is we've got to hold our representatives accountable. We've got to talk to our city county councilors. We've got to talk to our mayor. And we've got to tell them what we need. It's more than just voting. It's more than just registering. You've got to talk in between those times and tell them what you're looking for and make them accountable for us to be the best world-class city that we can be. Because it's amazing to me how if a millionaire says that they need more money, we find money to build a stadium. But if children need money for schools, if we need money for libraries, not so much. So there's a lot more work we need to do.
Well, and some of it is making people aware of what happened, because when there was a building that was going to go up in Indiana Avenue, and the developer, one of the people on the staff of the developer said, well, it's just a blank slate. It's just a blank slate. Well, if there's a parking lot there and it's a blank slate in your mind, if you have no idea what was there before. And even within our own community, we don't really always know what was there before. It is important for all of us and for the next generations to understand that there was a thriving community there, and that it intentionally it's not there anymore. But we can go forward so that when 50 years from now, when I'm no longer here, the next generation is saying, we built something here with the collaboration. It has to be in the same way that it was intentional by the city council and private developers and others in the city to say, well, we're just that neighborhood, we think it's expendable, we can, we can bulldoze it and we're gonna build a university. Now there needs to be the same intentionality about rebuilding. And that takes everybody. It takes Indiana University. It takes the city of Indianapolis. It takes the philanthropic organizations. It takes the private developers. It takes private money and the Urban League, the Walker, and others to say, we know that there's, here's a space. It's a few blocks. What is it that we can all do together with the resources of the various departments of the university, with the tech area, with philanthropy, with education? What is it that we can put into this to make it a model that is something that's a template for other cities?
Definitely. And as we're talking about history, that area that they indicated was a blank slate, at one point, it was the manufacturing building for Madam Walker. So that's a little bit west of where the theater is right now. And so I've heard from different people that, the building was there, then all of a sudden someone accidentally tore it down and they didn't mean to do that. And so, a lot of things happen, be it intentional or not. And so we have to know our history or we're doomed to repeat it. And so that's something really that's powerful and important. And I would encourage everyone to talk to your family members who are from here, who've lived here. Ask them, what was it like for you growing up? Where did you go? What's different? What's changed? And you would be surprised by some things you're just not aware of because it's gone away and people just haven't talked about it anymore. I know for me, the Avenue, my grandmother, Anna Mae, she got her hair done down there. There was a record store down there. I can remember that very clearly.
Arlene's Records.
Right. And so, that was the Avenue. That was the place to be. That was where you went. And so it's a shadow of its former self. They had a lot of jazz clubs, Sunset. And so in our wall mural, we're paying homage to that. So you can kind of tap into a little bit of that history. We've done some great things here in Indianapolis, and we can continue to do great things, but we have to all be pulling together. I think that's what's really
and when you talk about this conversation, these intergenerational conversations, that's one of the things that, writing about my family and having the opportunity to talk with people about their own family history, because everybody's family has interesting stories. But now this generation, they have their smartphones. They've got, where we had to write things down on a piece of paper, young people now can just pull out their phone and interview grandma, interview the great aunt, interview, Uncle Joe, and get those stories. And actually, right here, this very room is probably a place where that could happen. I don't know, once a month. Say, bring your oldest relative, bring your grandmother, and we're going to teach you how to do an interview and get those stories, on tape, on video, because we are losing our elders. I mean, I went to visit Thomas Ridley yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And I sat at Mr. Ridley's right, exactly, at his table. And he, we talked for an hour, we pulled out all kinds of things, and he told me some stories. He showed me the notebook where he keeps his notes. He will be 99 years old.
Wow, that's incredible.
And he is getting around, all his marbles are there. He's not using a cane. Mr. Ridley is incredible. But he is our Rio. He is just, and he gives with such generosity and with such love to tell us our story.
It's so important. And that made me think of someone that I didn't recognize who came in, Donna Stokes Lucas. If you could wave to everybody, Donna. Donna is the owner of Expression Tours. She's a researcher, she's a genealogist, she's a community activist, and just the all-around Renaissance woman. And what she's brought into this community has been incredible as well. And so we're both members of the Indiana African American Genealogy Group. And so that is something that we continue to try to do. You can't interview people enough. There's always something that you're going to learn, the next time you interview them. And you're right. We've got smartphones, we've got audio recorders, we've got video recorders. Learn and record that and share that, because we're walking books. And they say when a person dies, a library burns to the ground. And so there's something to that for us to tap into that and share with others. There's a lot for us to learn. So I have a question for you. Can you tell us a little bit about what made you start doing the research on your family? Obviously, we know who Madam is because of everything that you share with us, but what does she mean to you? Why did you go down this road? You've read, written so many books, you've done so much research, you just really poured your heart and soul into that. And so what made that so important for you to do?
So, it's a journey. I was talking in January when we were in the green room earlier, listening to her journey about how she began to write poetry. And each of us has a story of how it started, the spark that went off. And for me, it was even before I could read. I was, like a toddler. My mother and I were visiting the apartment on Ward Street, the 200 block of Ward Street. Those buildings are still there, where my grandfather lived in the mid-50s when my parents and I moved back to Indianapolis. That had actually been my grandmother's apartment. It's a long story. My grandparents were married and divorced and remarried, and it's a long story. But it was my grandmother's apartment, but she had died by then, and in my mind, it was my grandfather's apartment. But when my mother and my grandfather would sit in the living room, I would go into what had been my grandmother's bedroom and open the dresser drawers, and inside those dresser drawers were things that had belonged to my grandmother May, to Amelia Walker, and to Madam.
Oh, wow.
So there were, ostrich feather fans, mother of pearl opera glasses, a silk pillow that smelled like Shalimar. And on the bookshelves in another room were first editions of Jean Toomer's Cane and Count Cullen's Color and Langston Hughes's The Weary Blues. Now, I didn't know what those things were, but I would see the pictures of these women, these people who were my relatives. My mother went to work every day at the Walker Building. She'd arrive and clicking in her high heels, because she always wore really high heels, going and arriving in front of the Walker Building in her black 1955 Mercury, going up the elevator with Mary, the elevator operator, clicking across the terrazzo floor to her office on the fourth floor. And the silverware that we used every day had Madam Walker's monogram on it, and our china, our special china for the holidays. So I was exposed to that. But the very last thing in the world I wanted to do was focus on Madam Walker. You're a kid, you don't want to be different from everybody else. But it was where my mom worked, and my parents both worked in the hair care industry. A lot of people know my dad, Henry Bundles, who was the founding president of Center for Leadership Development. Before that, he was president of Summit Laboratories, a hair care company, and had worked for the Walker Company for a little while after my parents got married. So both of my parents were in the hair care business. I wanted to be a journalist. That was the farthest thing from my mind. So I was resisting it. I was interested in Amelia Walker and the Harlem Renaissance because she knew the writers that I loved. But when I got to graduate school at Columbia in journalism, my advisor was Phyllis Garland, the only Black woman on the faculty, first tenured Black faculty member at Columbia in the J School. And Phil's mother had been the editor of the Pittsburgh Courier, a very well-known Black newspaper. Phil was my advisor for my master's paper. And when we talked about topics, I gave her all kinds of topics that I thought I was supposed to suggest. None of them Black, maybe the Schomburg, I might have mentioned that. But at the end of the conversation, Phil said, "Your name is Amelia. Do you have any connection to Madam Walker and Amelia Walker?" I think Phil knew the answer, but I was not walking around talking about this. And I said, "Well, yeah, that's my family." And she said, "That's what you're going to write about." So that was the fall of 1975. And that was a critical moment. There were very few books being published by or about Black people. Not that they weren't being written, being published. But Phil validated this as a topic for me. And it was just a critical moment where there were still a few people living who had known them. And I began that journey.
Wow. So if he hadn't asked that question.
And it's Phyllis.
If Phyllis hadn't asked that question, do you think
You know, I don't know. I would not have started it in the same way and had ownership of it. Now, a few years later, Alex Haley came to us. And so he's still riding the wave of Roots, and he said he wanted to do a mini series and, you know, a sort of a novelized version of it. And I could say to him when we had dinner, well, and he said, I'm gonna hire 5 or 6 researchers and we're gonna do this whole big thing. And I said, Mr. Haley, I did my master's paper about Mount Walker. You know, there's some letters that I have. I'd be happy to do the research. So that then gave me, I took 9 months off from my job as a producer at NBC. I moved to New York for the summer. I began to read through the papers that Violet Reynolds, who was Mount Walker's secretary, Teresa Reynolds' grandmother, had donated to the Indiana Historical Society. So I had these tens of thousands of pages, but I had staked my claim and my ownership of the story by doing that piece at Columbia.
Awesome. So let me ask you a question. If you can go back to your life as a producer and being in TV, what is the biggest, takeaway from that? And what are you thinking about now with where we are with the media and what's going on? And it's just the ups and downs and, alternative facts.
Lord. There's so much in there. The first thing I will say, just to sort of put a pin in that, is to say all of those 30 years that I spent in working in network television news, it taught me how to be a storyteller. And those skills that I learned, interviewing people, using visuals, thinking visually, all of those things have contributed to the books that I write and the way that I write books. So I am eternally grateful for that period of my life. Boy, I'm glad I got into that I started doing journalism when I did, and then I did television journalism. Because when I started, ancient times, there were 3 networks and PBS. It wasn't cable. The whole landscape has changed, where there's still great journalism being done. Whether it's Frontline or whether it's ProPublica or whether it's The Atlantic or The New Yorker or The Root. There's great journalism, great investigative journalism going on, but now there are alternative things. And I think that I love libraries. Research and documentation is really important to me. And I think I grew up at a time when if you had the facts, you won the argument. Now you can have somebody, a member of Congress, staring you right in the face, or the President of the United States staring you right in the face and telling you a lie. And there are a lot of people who believe it. Times are different. I'm still always going to be a news junkie. I still read tons of newspapers and articles and websites every day. And I still believe that the truth prevails, but it is a really hard fight now.
How can we help that fight as consumers? What can we do to make sure the truth is being told?
I think you can, first you have to make sure that you're educating yourself. And you have to be vigilant about it, because there are all kinds of conspiracy theories. I do not give into the conspiracy theories. But I think my diet of news is, because I worked in news, everybody is not going to want the same diet. I wake up and I listen to NPR, as I said. There are several things. I do an hour's worth of current events reading when I'm on the elliptical or the treadmill every day. Everybody is not going to do that. But I just feel like I have to be armed with the facts so that I can speak up. There is, one place right now to pay attention to school boards. Because of the pushback on telling the truth about history. Several people have said this today, mirrors and windows. There is a resistance to telling the truth about our history. And if people can tell you an entirely false narrative about history, that informs not just how they interact with you or whether they offer you a job or whether they pass legislation. If they're operating on
information that is not accurate, it changes policy, it changes the world. And now the battlefield is at school boards. And, you know, we've talked about this, but when I was at North Central High School, where I got a really wonderful public school education. But in the 1960s, the textbooks were based on a narrative that had really been driven by the Daughters of the Confederates, with what was called the Dunning School. And there were others who basically said, you know, slavery was benign. And it's the same kind of thing that's being pushed now. Like, we don't want to hurt people's feelings, and so we're going to tell them this. So my textbook literally said, the only time Negroes were mentioned in my high school textbook was during slavery. And I have the book, and it literally says, slaves were contented. And that makes somebody else feel like that nothing really wrong happened because they were better off before emancipation. Well, the damage that does is to let people think that it was benign, and it was not benign.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's why books are important. I mean, one of the things I'm thinking about is because books, libraries, and manuscript collections, like I'm just in heaven when when I was the last time I was here, was at the Indiana Historical Society, and you know, there's always one more folder I haven't seen. So I spent an hour, took pictures of it, scanned it on my phone. But when I was in college, the first time I had been exposed to the stacks, the library, the original, but you could still, as a student, you could walk into the stacks at Widener Library. And there were old books, and I don't know what I was working on. I came across a section, what is the Dewey Decimal System area for this section? I don't know. But it was those pseudoscience books from the 1800s of people who were saying basically, people of African descent were inferior because their hair was a certain way, the shape of their skull. And I found those books and was reading through them, and I saw just how insidious that white supremacy was. A few stacks away, I also found W.E.B. Du Bois's Issues of the Crisis. And at that point, I was kind of ambivalent about Madam Walker because a lot of people said, "Oh, she invented the hot comb," and I was wearing an afro. I was not interested in hearing that. So she did not invent the hot comb. If you don't learn anything else today, that is not true. But when I read his obituary of her in the August 1919 issue of the Crisis, and he was my intellectual hero, and he had great things to say about her, that changed my perception and contributed to the journey that I went on. But facts are so important. But finally, I think the battleground right now is not just the Congress. The battleground is the school boards.
And so we all have to study to show ourselves approved. And we have to read, we have to research, everybody's on a different level. Like you said, you're on an hour or more. Everybody not necessarily can do that, but you can do something. I would encourage everyone to get a library card or renew your library card. You can physically check out books. You can also go online and do things digitally. We have a Libby app, which is amazing. You can do audiobooks. So we have an amazing collection here, and I would encourage you to check books out. You can also check out a book online or reserve it and have it sent to any branch that's close to you. Maybe it's close to your work, maybe it's close to home. You don't even have to come downtown to access this. So again, we just want people to read and learn and grow. And the more you learn, the more you know you don't know.
That's right. I mean, this year, because my book club reads a lot of books. And then I'm writing and I'm reading stuff that's related to that. But I have all of these books that I have wanted to read, but I don't have time to sit down. But I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. So I caught up on things like The New Jim Crow, Brian Stevenson's Just Mercy, Richard Rothstein's The Color of Law, about the history of redlining. But or Heather McGee's The Sum of Us, but those facts.
Yeah, that was hard. The Sum of Us. Ooh, I had to put it down a couple of times because it was so truthful.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot to unpack. Right now I'm reading $40 million Slaves. Ooh. And if we don't know our past, we're doomed to repeat it.
Exactly. And when you're armed with those facts, it's very, people can't just sort of say, well, you know, that's the way it is. And I think that if we don't know the story, we think, well, there's nothing I can do about it because that's already happened. You have to fight back.
Right, definitely.
Our ancestors have been fighting back. We have to keep fighting.
I'm listening to a book right now on Ida B. Wells and the way she fought and struggled. She was 16 years old and took care of her siblings because both of her parents died. I think it was typhoid. So she pretended to be older so she could get a job. I mean, talk about fortitude and stepping up. And now her great grandchildren are writing books about her, Michelle Duster. And so we still have so much to learn on the ancestors and on whose shoulders we stand. This has been an amazing conversation, but before we end, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to say today? I just thank you so much and appreciate you for coming here today and not thinking it robbery to spending your Saturday nights physically here in Indianapolis.
No, this is a gift. I mean, like, did I rob you? No, this is, I'm just, I'm humbled really to be invited to be a part of this. So excited for you that you are institution building, that so many people are supportive, and I can't wait for the 10th anniversary.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Bundles. Please give her a warm round of applause. This has been an amazing day. It's been 4 years in the making. I thank all of you for being here. I do want to say that after the program is over, we're going to be around the space, so we'll be able to help you to navigate the kiosks. We'll be able to answer questions. We have staff members here. If you're looking for books, if you want to check them out, we'll be able to do that. I just thank everyone who's here. I know I probably missed someone. Charge it to my head and not my heart. Oshia Boyd is here. I do want to give her a shout out. She's the editor of the Indianapolis Reporter, our amazing, amazing hometown paper, and they're continuing to doing such amazing work. So thank you so much for everything you're bringing. I can't see anybody else. Oh, hey, Dr. Payne, raise your hand. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Thank you so much. So let me tell you about Dr. Payne. She's another supporter from the very beginning, literally and figuratively hugging me and telling me I can do it, encouraging me, helping me along the way. Dr. Terry Jett, Dr. Calvin Matata, just really people who have been there in the trenches. I've learned so much from them. I also want to give a shout out to Michael Torres. He's a staff member, a colleague, a dear friend, being the president. When I need something, Michael Torres is there. Oh, Michael, help me. Yes, he's there. I sent him these crazy emails on Thursday because I was really tired and I should have shut the computer down. And the next morning he said, oh, yes. Because I kept on going back and forth. And so he helped me. He's just always great. And he's one of many, many staff members that are doing great work. Theo Kelly is here. She's an African American History Committee Advisory Board member. She was also on the advisory board for the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation. Just so many people doing great work. Kai Blackburn is our photographer. If we can give him a round of applause. We want to thank him for coming out and taking pictures. We appreciate it. But this is unfortunately the end of our program, but we're going to be here. We're going to be around helping you check out the kiosks, also check out the epicenter, look at the quilts in the back. This has been an amazing day. I want to thank communications, Mike Williams, Randy Starks, Katie Buloff, and anybody who's behind the scenes that I don't see. Maybe everybody's here in the room though. Thank you so much to January New York. Thank you to Jasmine. Thank you to Ms. Bundles, Dr. Dickerson, Hassan Amin, John Hilling, our CEO. Everything has just been incredible, and we couldn't have done any of this without you. So thank you so much.